Marketing and sales. They're two sides of the same coin, but they're becoming more entwined every day. Whether you're running a one-person shop or a multi-million-dollar business, understanding both is no longer optional. That's why I'm so excited for today's interview with Tim Fitzpatrick from Rialto Marketing. Tim is a marketing veteran, but he's relatively new to the MSP channel. However, he has this rare gift for making marketing make sense. No fluff, no gimmicks, just practical strategy forward thinking that can actually help you in your business. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the shiny objects in the marketing trends, or you're unsure where to focus your energy and dollars, this conversation is for you. So stick around to the end, because Tim's insights and perspective on marketing might just change the way that you approach it forever. Let's do it. All right. Hey, everybody. I have the amazing Tim Fitzpatrick here. I'm so glad we finally got this scheduled. Tim, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I'm excited to be here and dig into it with you today.
Yeah, we met on LinkedIn, I think, or somehow one of us reached out to the other one, and we've had several conversations over the last few months. And you and I clicked right away because you can always tell when people have no idea what they're talking about. And so when you meet a marketing person who actually has seasoned experience in the field, knows how to help people, I was like, oh, thank God, finally. Because there's so many like people who are in marketing who just don't really shouldn't be. Yeah. So anyway, that's what made you stick out to me. So I'm really glad to have you on.
Well, thank you for that. I'll take the compliment. I appreciate that. And I'll do my best to impart some of that experience as we talk today.
Yeah. And you know what? I think we should jump straight into it, because first of all, this is the MSP Sales Podcast, but you and I have even talked about this before, that the definition of sales and marketing, they're sort of bleeding together.
Yeah.
A little bit. And there's a lot more crossover now, because historically I would never have referred to myself as a marketer. But the truth is that according to the newer definitions of what marketing entails, I think I am a marketer. But demand gen, all lead gen is now encompassed under marketing. So let's just talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the field. So for those who don't know, you're a marketing consultant / coach. I guess you have a program that you help MSPs, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk to me a little bit about just sort of what you're seeing? MSPs are coming to you presumably with many overlapping problems, overlapping requests. What's the sort of trend of like the average person who's coming to you, what they're experiencing and what they're trying to achieve, what they're struggling with?
We'll just start, because this is a broad topic here, right? But in general, what I see from most MSPs is from a marketing standpoint, they're looking to generate leads, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the vast majority of them want. I want to invest in marketing because I want to get more leads and I want to get them tomorrow. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's short-sighted, and I think it leads MSPs to make decisions with marketing that negatively impact the results. Because one, marketing is a long-term thing. Can we generate short-term results? Yes, there are opportunities there, but to take those short-term results and repeat them over and over again, you have to think long-term, and you actually have to have an engine that just keeps cranking.
Yeah.
When we focus on just lead gen, what ends up happening is we go, what vehicle do I need? I need to do paid ads, or I need to do cold outreach, right? Or I need to do social media. We end up going into vehicles without thinking about what we need to actually fuel those vehicles. And so the biggest problem I see is MSPs that are investing in marketing. That's another thing. A lot of MSPs don't invest in marketing, but the ones that are jump right to vehicles and get tactical, and they don't work because the vehicles don't have the fuel they need.
Right.
That's the biggest thing that I see.
And so for the listener, an example might be somebody says, okay, we need new leads. All right, we're going to do blogs now. Okay, let's just crank out some like SEO blogs that we had ChatGPT write for us. We just start cranking that out. All of a sudden, it's 6 weeks in. They're out of blog ideas, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, their blogs are getting 8.5 views.
Right.
Right. And they're going, well, whoa, why is it my phone ringing?
Yeah.
And that might be an example. Is that a good example of jumping
That's a great example, right? Or I need to do Google ads, right?
Yeah.
Paid ads can be a great way to start to generate leads quicker, but even paid ads still take a little bit of time to optimize and fine tune. And so they jump into that, right? Or they jump into posting on social media. The problem is, if you don't have a really firm understanding of who your ideal clients are and what you need to say to attract those types of people, you can do paid ads, but the message is too broad. It doesn't resonate. And so it doesn't convert well. And the people that it attracts aren't a great fit, right? Or your paid ads are driving traffic back to your website, and your website messaging is not where it needs to be. You don't have clear calls to action. And so you're driving people back to a website that just doesn't have good conversion mechanisms.
Yeah.
And so when I'm talking about fuel and vehicles, that's the distinction there, right? We need the right fuel in place so that any of the vehicles you choose are going to actually get down the road.
Right. And then even further still. So, okay, this is a great example. People do this a lot. They're like, hey, okay, I'm ready to invest. But really what they want to do is throw money at it.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm ready to invest. In other words, I'll spend $1,000, but I expect $10,000 back in 1 month. And because I paid, I'm not going to do a lick of work, or I'm not going to invest. I'm not going to think hard. I'm not going to change anything about myself, my offering, my branding, because that's marketing's job. And so they write a check and think now they feel entitled to a customer caring about them, right?
Yeah.
But that's an epidemic you and I have talked about many times. And we might be describing the listener right now. You might be seeing yourself in the mirror as I'm describing this, or frankly, I might be describing you, but you haven't yet come to terms with the fact that I'm describing you.
Yeah.
And that's fine too. But using the language of the vehicle and the fuel, I think we zoom back one level farther, and what everybody skips is like the GPS. Like, okay, but nobody actually has a clear coordinates and map of like, where are you going? You just get in the car, start driving and go, I got to get there. But wait a minute. Where are you going?
Yeah.
When do you have to be there? Why do you have to be there in an hour? Why are you taking that freeway when you should take this? So you have to zoom back out and make a map. And that's what everybody skips, isn't it? Because they think, well, I'll throw some cash out. I'll get the quick wins first. Then when I'm playing with the house's chips and I'm up 5,000, 10,000 MRR, then I'll do the long-term investments, because they think that's the only way they can afford it. But what do you practically say to an MSP who's coming to you with that argument, going, yeah, I get it, Tim. I know strategy is all fun in games, but I need wins now. I can't afford to do $2,000 a month for a year, or and fill in the blank. I need a customer in 30 to 90 days. And then if you get me a customer with these quick wins, then maybe we talk big picture.
Yeah.
What do you say?
There are a few ways to think about this. One, I want to set realistic expectations. If you don't have realistic expectations coming into your marketing investment, you're not going to be happy, right? And that's why a lot of MSPs aren't happy. And frankly, it's not necessarily their fault, because they're seeing marketing providers that are going, hey, we're going to we'll get you on the top page of Google in 30 days, or, we're going to just have a flood of leads coming into you in the first 30 days or 60 days. They're coming across people that are over-promising and under-delivering, right? And so marketers as a whole don't do a really good job of setting proper expectations. But when I come into it, I focus on strategy, right? The fuel, planning, where you're looking at the vehicles, and then leadership, where you get that driver into place to get those vehicles to the intended destination. There are always quick wins. So we always want to look at where are your quick wins while we're working on these other things that take time. So let's talk about some quick wins, some examples. First and foremost, what's already working? Something is working that is bringing in business, right? Otherwise, they're out of business. In almost all cases, what's working is not fully optimized. What can we do to fill gaps to really optimize that so that it generates more results? Let's go one step deeper. Most MSPs are generating the vast majority of their leads from referrals.
Mm-hmm.
How many MSPs that you talk to actually have a system or a process for generating referrals, or a referral program to incentivize people to send referrals? Very few.
Yeah.
That is a perfect example of something that we can focus on putting in place in the first 30 days that they can implement to start building momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another example. What used to work that you stopped doing? Okay, so for example, in my business, I used to do a ton of speaking. Before the pandemic, I used to do a bunch of speaking. Pandemic hit, I stopped. I'm doing some of it, not as much as I used to, but that's an example of something that used to work for me that, gosh, if I really wanted to, I could go back and pick that up. Like I'm already used to doing it. I know what I need to do. We just need to start doing it again. And a lot of MSPs have opportunities like that in their business where they're like, gosh, yeah, we did used to do that, but we started focusing on this and then that got left by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pick that back up. So those are two examples of quick wins where when we initially meet, as we're looking at what things do we need to focus on to start building your engine, what fast track revenue opportunities do we have that we can focus on now while we're also doing that work? So we're doing these things simultaneously.
Yeah, man. There's so many parallels even to our perspective in sales consulting and coaching is like, yeah, the truth is if you commit to building a sales program, we're going to make you money fast. But that's not why we're doing this. I always say my job isn't to make you money tomorrow. My job is to make you more money for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And yeah, you'll probably find some money tomorrow, but if you're just joining me for the money tomorrow, then you're not going to be successful in my program, especially because frankly, an MSP who's going to engage with marketing or sales seriously. And I'm not even just talking about like hiring somebody like you or I, but if you're going to take building a marketing or sales process seriously, it's going to cost you something. It's going to be work, right? Not just money. I don't mean throw money at it and then you don't commit. It's going to cost you responsibility. You're going to have to take ownership over it. You're going to have to face inner blocks in your own skill set. Like you're going to have to upskill. You're going to have to confront things that make you uncomfortable. Period. You just have to. And if you can't or won't do any of that, then no matter how good of an expert or a guru or a whatever the hell you find, like you're always going to be the plateau of your own success, regardless of the type of people you surround yourself with. You know what I mean? So it's one of the themes that I kind of smack over and over again, even in this podcast, is like, you are ultimately responsible for your success or failure. To me, that's a very liberating way of thinking, that I get to decide if this works. I don't say, well, I found another vendor, I'll throw some cash at it and we'll roll the dice. It's such a powerless mindset. Right? Where business...
you're burning money, right?
You're burning money. And usually the people who just want to write checks is because it's cheaper than confronting the real issues. Do you know what I mean? Like they'd rather spend money than do inner work, if you will, for a lack of a better term. They'd rather try to make it outer work. But in reality, it's like, look, there might be a reason nobody cares about your product. Your product might suck, or your brand might be freaking confusing, or you might have a fundamental misunderstanding of what your audience wants and needs. That might be the real work here. So it's not just about getting more eyeballs. Like there could be other things at play. But, having said all that, I don't want to pile on too hard on the MSPs, but I just want to throw out there that like just having even a great vendor a great partner is not the only ingredient in the recipe for success, right? I mean, any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's an example that I see on the marketing side a lot. MSP doesn't want to do the marketing in-house. They go hire an agency. And once they hire the agency, they just kind of think that, oh my gosh, like my responsibility to oversee marketing efforts has now been washed away and everything is going to be great.
Mhm.
And it's not that way.
Mm.
You still, as the MSP owner, or if you have a higher level executive who's going to do it, somebody in your company needs to be managing that agency.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the background or the skills or the expertise to be able to manage that, you need to have somebody help guide you through that. So the common thing is, hey, my agency, I'm getting data reports from my agency every month, and they're saying I'm climbing up the rankings with these keywords and all this stuff is happening and it looks great. But damn, it doesn't feel good. Like I'm not generating leads. What is the problem? And you touched on this early on, right? That not everybody does this. And this is just one example, but awesome. So you've increased your search engine. You're now number one for this specific keyword. And that keyword generates 10 searches a month. Who cares? Right? 10 searches a month is not going to change anything, right? That's just 10 searches. That doesn't mean that they're clicking on your link in search results. So,
and that's why you're number one, because nobody's competing for that, because it's not worth anything.
So and that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing, right? If you rank for enough of those lower volume, but really high buy intent keywords, that can be a good thing. But you have to be able to look at it from the entire picture. And MSPs are great IT people. They don't all have expertise in marketing or sales. And so when you don't have that expertise, it's really hard to manage something that's not in your wheelhouse. And that's where people like you or I can step in to help guide them through that so that they do feel more comfortable doing it. Because the way I think about it, if you do not have marketing, generating leads, and sales capabilities that turn those leads into clients, who cares how great you are at IT? You're the best kept secret. So it is so important to have sales and marketing on the front end. You got to have it. And frankly, as an MSP, if you choose to embrace that, you're head and shoulders above most, because most don't value it. No.
Right. They want the results, but valuing it means placing value in it. It means like paying time and money to develop it, period, right? Like building anything requires time, money, or both. And it's a spectrum. Usually, if you want to spend less money, you have to spend more time and vice versa. But there is no, I want to be a business owner, but I'm just a tradesperson. I'll just outsource all these other departments, and now I run this big, successful business. That doesn't exist, man.
No.
It might have 20 years ago, right? But like now, it does not exist. It will not be successful.
Yeah. We need to know where our strengths are and where our weaknesses. And there's the ability to bring in people that can help support and fill in where we have those gaps.
Let me ask you this then. Tactics versus strategy. Doing tactics first is probably the wrong order. It doesn't necessarily even mean the tactics are wrong.
Right.
Let's say an MSP is listening to this, $500,000, $1 million MSP, owners like wearing all those hats still and going, look, I can convert decently. I win all my referrals. When I can get inbound stuff, it usually does pretty well. And they're looking into hiring an agency. And we're not going to drop any agency names here, but should that person hire an agency? Yes or no? And if so, like what's going to make it successful?
If they have not done the strategic work, I would say no.
Okay.
Because you talked about sequencing in marketing is just as important as what you do.
Yeah.
You just hit on this. It's not that the tactics are wrong. It's that the sequence is out of whack. And when we get the sequence right, then the tactics start to work. So look, there's so many different marketing tactics. I can carte blanche say that, there are some really strong ones that most MSPs should consider, but there is no one size fits all plan. Every MSP is in a different situation, and we all have different goals, right? Somebody that wants to 10x in 5 years needs a different plan than somebody that wants to 2x in 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? And what goes into your plan also is dictated by your profitability. How profitable are you as an MSP? Some are more profitable than others. And if you have more profit, you can afford to sink more back into the growth of your company. That's another thing that dictates what you do and how much you spend. So we've got to look at all of these things as a whole to determine what's going to make the most sense for you.
Right.
And so it's, it depends. It feels like a cop-out answer, but in a lot of cases, it does depend.
Right. Honestly, that's why I asked you that question, because people think of these binary little questions and they want to be like, well, I'm just going to segment one little sliver of marketing that I am excited about, or that I have an idea about, or I know but somebody who can do. And we think that works. And that marketing is this binary thing. I'm either marketing or not marketing, but it's not like that, because there's, as you just said, there's so many tactics. But we could run any poll on any day and ask an MSP, have you done marketing before? They'll all raise their hand, and we'll say, keep your hand up if you got an ROI. And every time I do this, 80% of the hands go down.
Go down. Yep.
Like, they all want to try marketing because they want customers. And frankly, investing in marketing is way easier than investing in sales development. Frankly, it is, because marketing is less personal.
Yeah.
You're not talking to strangers on the phone all day, right? You're just on their Facebook feed. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't mean this as a slight against marketing, but it's easier to an owner. They're thinking it's easier to do marketing than it is to do sales.
You know what's interesting though? In the MSP space, the first default is going to sales first, not marketing.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Elaborate on that.
So it's just ingrained in the space. I can't tell you how many MSPs I talk to who are investing in sales in some way, shape, or form, whether they've already hired somebody in-house who's doing outbound calling, but they're not focusing on marketing at the same time. I would be willing to bet most MSPs, if you talk to them, what should you invest in first? The majority of them will say, I need to invest in sales first before marketing. And I'm of the opinion you need to do them at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Because they go together. If marketing is doing its job, it's getting in front of people that have a need or a problem you can solve, and your marketing is helping them get to know, like, and trust you. So that when that pain becomes great enough, they raise their hand and they're like, I got to talk to you. And then it transfers to sales, and sales has a warm lead. Yeah. Right. And we all know that warm conversations convert much, much better than cold. And they're already predisposed at that point to your messaging and what you do and how you can help them. And provided that message is consistent from marketing to sales, you're going to close at a much, much higher rate.
For sure. It's so true. Let me ask you this then. We're talking up strategy, but maybe somebody's in the position they can't hire a strategist. They need to take the next steps. They want to do the right thing. They're like, look, I'm vibing with what you're saying, Tim. So then what do I do? What happens if I can't afford a strategist, or I don't know a strategist?
Yeah.
Do they read books? What do you honestly do to make sure that you've got the best chance to succeed?
Yeah. So I love this question. If you can't afford a strategist, then you got to take the time to do it yourself. Everything that I do, it's not a secret. Like, there is so much information out there. We can all figure it out. The difference is when they work with somebody like you or I, we help them get there faster, right? And we've put what we do into frameworks and methodologies that make it easier to digest and make it simpler to understand so that they can take the action they need to and get there faster.
Mm-hmm.
But look, MSPs are smart, like they're very data-driven type people. Like you can figure this out.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the money, goes back to what you said, everything takes time and or money, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the money, then you're going to have to spend the time to do it. Otherwise, you're going to waste a ton of effort. And so if I had an MSP that came to me that said, hey, I don't have budget, but I need to do something, okay, I would say you need to hone in on what ideal clients you're going to focus on.
Yeah.
And in my experience, the simplest place for MSPs to start differentiating and really focus their marketing is to focus on specific industry verticals.
Yeah.
CPAs, attorneys, whatever it may be. It is the simplest way. Most do not do it.
Yeah.
Which is why you should. And when you focus like that, it becomes much, much easier to identify where you need to go to get in front of those people.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say hone in on who those people are going to be. Once you understand if you're going to focus on an industry vertical, usually this happens because, they look at it and they go, oh my gosh, 30% of my customers are CPAs or half of my customers are CPAs. Great. If they're profitable and you like working with them and you're getting great outcomes for them, then focus on those people.
Yes.
Okay. And once you know you're going to focus on CPAs, for example, then you can go, where are they? I call it an ideal client GPS. Create a list of where they are.
Yeah.
What associations? What events do they go to? Who do they follow online? Who do they buy from? There's a whole host of places that they buy from and places they go to get information. Create that list. That's the list that you can now choose where you want to go to get in front of those people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing is, what are you going to say to them? And if you're already working with them, then you can interview them and start to hear why they chose you, how they went through the buying process, and really start to understand them. And you want to hear it in their words. When you can get that information in their words, then you can start to shift your messaging to focus on them and not you, and the real business problems that you solve for them as an MSP. And you start using their lingo.
Yeah.
Any MSP can do this if they take the time. It's going to take longer, right? And they're going to probably make more missteps if they don't have somebody guiding them through it, but they can still get through it.
If you're listening to this podcast going, I literally just need the next piece of advice, replay the last 5 minutes over and over again. And you should transcribe what Tim just said. Listen to me. If you're an MSP, especially if you're like new and you're like, how the hell do I build an MSP? Is the marketplace too saturated? If you do what Tim just said, you will be successful. Like, period. Yeah. And a lot of people are anti-verticalizing that it's fine. What I can tell you is, since I verticalized as a consultant, my hourly rate is 7 times higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
Right? Because Business School 101, the first step to increasing your value is specializing. That's the fastest and easiest way to increase your perceived value and your actual value, your intrinsic value, right? Is specializing. And if you don't want to verticalize, then you could do what we might call a horizontal niche, right? So verticalize in or horizontalize in just startups or just venture-backed businesses or whatever. And ideally, you could do both. A vertical and a horizontal makes that crosshair, right? And now you're like, this is exactly where I'm going. But that's it, man. Do the work. Figure out, who the hell am I supposed to be helping? Who are they? Why should they work with me? Why should they care about me? What can they do before or after working with me that they couldn't do before?
Yep.
If you can answer those things and then start interviewing those people, like you just said, you're going to figure out actual pain that they experience, actual outcomes they're looking for, things that motivate them and drive them. This is marketing 101. And then all of a sudden, running ads makes a little bit more sense because you have context in which Like you have coordinates in your GPS. Now you get in the car because you know
Yeah.
what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So critical, man.
If you think about, here's another simple way to think about the message to the market. Focus on the problems they have and don't want, and the results they want and don't have. You go to 5 MSP websites, 9 times out of 10, if you take those 5, they all say the same thing, or a slightly different variation of it.
Yeah.
And that means that you all look the same. They're not buying IT. Nobody likes buying IT. It's like insurance, right? I buy insurance because I have to, right? It's protecting me from my downside risk. They're buying IT to solve a larger business problem, right? Or gain a more important business outcome. The IT helps support them to get to that place. And so the message needs to focus on that. They don't buy from you because you say you're the number one IT provider in Denver. Like anybody can say that. They buy from you because of the problem you solve and the outcome you can help them achieve. That's it.
Period.
So if you did that one thing, your message would be different than 99% of MSPs.
I love it, man. So if you can't afford a strategist, if you can't afford the money for strategy, you're going to have to invest the time to become the strategist.
Yeah.
That's the big takeaway from today.
And it is simple, but it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
It's not complex, but we have to do the work. The way I think about easy is it just happens. There is no work.
Yeah.
But it is simple, right? Hone in on the ideal clients, create a list of where they are, and that's where you can go to market, and then create a message that resonates with those specific people. Specificity sells. The more specific you can get with the message, the more it's going to resonate with those people. And it naturally repels the people that it's not a good fit for.
Right. That's just it. That's how you get more better leads is you have super clear messaging rather than just more leads by saying, we'll fix anything with a power switch for anybody who works in a business. We think we're going to get more leads. What ends up happening counterintuitively is because we sound like nothing, nobody cares about us.
Yeah.
But anybody who does engage, there's such a low likelihood that they're going to be a right fit because our messaging didn't do anything to attract the correct fits, right?
Yeah.
So being more specific is the recipe. Yeah, it's the recipe for better leads.
Well, you touched on this too, Brian. When you get specific in who you serve, you can charge more. For MSPs, if you're serving specific industry verticals, it makes everything after onboarding more efficient, right? You can standardize your tech stack. You can onboard faster. It's easier to service. That impacts profitability significantly. There are so many benefits downstream other than just marketing benefits.
Yeah. I love it, man. One of the things I really want to continue hitting home, and I hope a listener is taking away from this, is if you have a business, sometimes we think of that a business is the operations, but operations is a department of your business. If you don't have a sales engine and a marketing engine, I don't think you have a business.
I agree with you. You don't.
And I don't mean this to be facetious, but you have, I don't know, a hobby, maybe a nonprofit by accident. You have something that cannot build and sustain itself, then you don't have a business. And building out this marketing effort, if you're not going to do it, then you need to have a leader who is going to own that role. And if you have no one willing to own that role, you have to bring in a hired gun who's going to own that function.
Who's going to do it?
Point is that marketing doesn't just happen. Marketing is not a throw money at it. It's not a pay to win game. Because there's plenty of people I know. I mean, just had a client. He had spent $70,000 in the previous 12 months on SEO and SEM. 0 leads.
Nothing.
Not a single thing. Now, and I don't want to victim blame. Like, there's probably things that he was doing wrong. But really, that's just tragic.
It is.
Nobody likes that. And nobody's licking their chops going, oh, well, I could help them even better. Nobody's excited about this. It's just terrible. But the reason I bring it up is, look, it's not like if you just spend more money, you automatically win, because marketing is too competitive for that. Yeah. But I even liken it to, and this is, I don't know if we need another analogy, but I'll bring one. I like the analogy of fitness. Like, there is some nuance to each person getting in shape. But in reality, we all know what you need to do to get in better shape. You know what I mean? Like, there's different body types. That's true. There's different insulin resistance levels and all that. And learning your own self, there is nuance there. So I don't mean to just say like everybody does, because some people will do the exact same work and eat the same food, and one person will get results and one won't. And I recognize that. So I don't want to be insensitive with the example. But the point is that, as painting with a broad brush here, everybody knows, eat better, exercise.
Yep.
You'll get in shape. And then you have somebody like, well, you know what? I know what I need to do intellectually, and yet I can't take the right action. And so what I'm going to do is pay a personal trainer to meet me and kick my ass at the gym twice a week. Because I know if I go to the gym, I'll scroll on my phone and on a speed 1 on a treadmill for half an hour, and I'll sit in the sauna. But if I have a personal trainer there, they will make me exercise more efficiently. It's not that you can't do it without a personal trainer, right? It's not like the personal trainer has some extra equipment that you don't have access to, but they bring the accountability, the foresight, the encouragement, right? And they make sure you do the right things in the right order. And then you could even hire a nutritionist or a dietitian or a meal prep person who comes and slaps the donut out of your hand and brings you Tupperware pre-made stuff. And like, you could, depending on your level of how much you're willing to own and how much versus how much you're willing to spend, it's going to change the actual application of how you get in shape. But in reality, if we're all trying to build a healthy sales and marketing engine, to your point, dude, read any marketing book. They're all going to say the same freaking thing. Clarify your offering, clarify your messaging, understand your audience, be empathetic, tell a story about them, be where they are, and be consistent, right? Do it right, do it well, do it over and over again, as John Davengay said on a previous episode. It's not that hard. Well, I shouldn't say it's not that complicated, but it's also not easy. If it was, everybody would be doing it, right?
Yeah.
So the question really becomes for you, if you're just trying to get to the tactics, that's like saying, I'm just going to take these diet pills and I'm going to pay to join a gym membership. And now I'm going to be in shape. And just because you paid, and I'm not throwing shade, but if you pay for a membership or some content provider that posts on your Facebook every day, that is not marketing, right? That's a good tactic. But that's like paying for a gym membership is not going to get you in shape.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah. You're going to need more than that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's activity.
Yeah.
I call it laying ground cover, right? It's there. But unless you find ways to make that your own, it is not differentiating you.
Right.
Right. And there's so many different things we could end up, we could go down with this. But I think some of the most important things we've touched on today is that sequencing is important.
Yes.
And you got to take the time to do the strategy up front. It's not a tactics problem. It's a marketing engine issue. And the first critical component in the engine is strategy, and you got to do it.
Tim, you're such a delight to me because you tell it how it is, but you also don't say it in this doomsday kind of way. There's real success at the end of your advice. And I really appreciate that about you. I think that you're a big gift to the channel. And that's why I just wanted to have you on today. I sincerely believe that anybody who goes through this and is stumbling over what to do next, there's really practical stuff here. Tim, if people want to get a hold of you or learn more about what you're doing, why don't you just tell us for a second? Maybe some people don't know about Rialto. So tell us who you are and like what you do and maybe if they want to get a hold of you.
Yeah, cool. Again, Tim Fitzpatrick, Rialto Marketing. I'm a marketing coach, advisor, consultant, and we help MSPs build their marketing engine so they can get where they want to go faster. So we're not the kind of people that are, creating social posts for you or managing paid ad campaigns. we live in those three areas of building an engine: strategy, planning, and leadership. So we can help support your internal marketing team. We can help support your outsourced agency. We're complement. We're not getting in the way of that. So if you want to connect, I'm on LinkedIn. It's under Tim P as in Paul Fitzpatrick. You can also go to our website, rialtomarketing.com, which is RIALTO marketing.com. Those are the two best places.
Cool. We'll have that stuff in the show notes for anybody who wants to get a hold of you. Again, yeah, man, sincere thanks. Thank you for just laying it out as it is today. You're a big boon for the listeners, and it's always a joy to talk. So thanks for being on.
Likewise, man. I appreciate it.